Hello, I'm Brad Johnson, and I want to welcome you to the presentation, Adronis, the Golden Age, 2037 and 2038. So what is happening is that upon the surface, this is going to unfold and shifting this particular planet to where the membrane starts to expand and now fourth density exists. What Adronis is going to be talking about is moving ourselves into a brand new era where we are actually going to experience a physical transformation from the physical body. When we get into 2037, there's going to be a lot of shifts, a lot of transformations going to be happening up into that time. And it will feel like people who are moving into the next density will start to feel like they're living in two different worlds. They'll have the physical world, and then they'll have the world that is the next world, representing that of fourth density. So Adronis is going to go into greater discussion with this and finding out exactly what each of us can do to help ready ourselves, prepare ourselves when we come into that particular time. It is the end of a cycle. And people are now starting to realize that the world is shifting so dramatically that we are actually now starting to incorporate a lot more of the spiritual into the physical. And that's all part of the effect to where we are going, relating to this grand timeline that is going to unfold, leading us into the next age. We will start to work together as a people, as one united people, working together with the earth, and we will have access to being able to work with spirit on deeper levels of consciousness, unlike anything that we have experienced before. So with 2037, 2038, there's going to be a lot of changes. It's going to be a new era upon the planet, and Adronis is going to be instructing exactly what we can do through ourselves to help move into that new phase of life. All right, good evening, everybody. I have what's known as the healing code cards up here, okay? These are just little samples if you guys want to hold them for a few minutes, and you can put them back and you can share them around. I have healing code cards here for the third eye, for the lungs, for the sinuses, for the spine, a headache eliminator, a pain eliminator, a kidney enhancer, and an immune enhancer. So basically how you use these cards, they will be coming out in November. I was hoping they would be available for the expo because I wanted to sell them here. Basically with these cards, all you're doing is you're gazing at them for a total of 60 seconds. After 60 seconds, you can just kind of put them on your body like this. You can put them on top of your head, and you can leave it there for another 60 seconds or for a few minutes. And these things go to work after that 60 seconds. So they start boosting your immune system. They start opening up your third eye. They start working with your headache, if you have a headache. Pain eliminator, if you have any pain in your body. You just tell the card where the pain is, and then you look at it for 60 seconds, and you can put it upon anywhere of your body, and it'll help to eliminate it as well, too. So this is available for you guys if you want to come up and give it a shot. Yeah. That's why I got the little table here, so. No, I won't be showing slides, no. Yeah, you can just come up, and once you're done with the card, you can just put it back on the table so others can try it, too. Yeah, there's more cards, but these are kind of the good main cards, I think. It's good for the group. So there's 36 cards in all. The website is called healingcodecards.com, okay? Website is healingcodecards.com. You guys can grab the digital version. The online version is available right now. Again, the printed version is going to be coming out in November. It'll be available on Amazon and through my website too, which is newearthteachings.com. We are going to go ahead and get started with tonight's presentation, which is called Adronis, the Golden Age, 2037 and 2038. Has anybody here heard of Adronis? So you can just raise your hands. Okay, yeah, about 3/4 of the group. Pretty good. Excellent. Okay, so for those of you who are not aware of Adronis, have you guys heard of Bashar, Abraham Hicks, Seth? Yeah. Ra, Carla Ruckart, Law of One, all that. Very, very similar to that, okay? It is me channeling this being that I refer to as a multidimensional mentor. And he is a consciousness existing within the star of what we would know as Sirius A, the brightest star in our sky, the dog star. That is where he exists. But he would exist in what's known as the 7th density plane. He was, when I first contacted him 10 years ago, in the 5th density plane. And then after 2012, I shifted again, and then he shifted. And then he went into the 6th density plane. And then just recently, here in 2019, several months back, he shifted again from 7th density because I shifted, working a lot more deeper with spirit, rather than the idea of guides and angels and all of that. So basically, I'm working much more with the working much more with the spirit energy or God. So again, when I'm going to bring Adronis in tonight, he is going to be giving the presentation about the Golden Age, about 2037 and 2038. So we have a date now relating to the harvest, that of 4th density. Okay. To my knowledge, I'm the only person that is actually sharing this information right now. There is another person, another researcher, named John Van Elken. He has been doing a lot of research with the Edgar Cayce readings and with the Egyptian timeline as well, too. And he has also shared that there's going to be some great changes taking place in 2038. So through the Edgar Cayce readings and through the Egyptian measurement timeline, what that is what's known as an Egyptian inch. And they were able to measure the king's chamber and actually being able to apply it using what's known as the pyramid inch. And through this measurement, they were able to accurately discover when World War I happened, when World War II happened, the birth of Jesus Christ, the fall and rise of empires, complete and totally accurate. And what they have also shared as well, too, is that 2038 is the end of the timeline. So that's where it stops. So something is happening in 2038 where the idea of the cycles will change. And Adronis is going to be talking about this altogether. I actually only discovered this information about John Van Elken when I started to get the information myself, that 2037 is a big time. It's a time of the harvest. It's a time of moving ourselves into 4th density. So again, I'm not going to stand up here and blab. I'm going to get Adronis to stand up here and blab. So, and he is going to share some information about that altogether. After the presentation, which will probably be about 45 minutes to an hour, we will have open Q&A. Okay, so if you guys do have any questions, Sue is going to be moderating the Q&A. So if you guys do have any questions, there's an extra microphone right there, and you just keep your hand raised, and Sue will be choosing who wants to ask a question. You can ask Adronis absolutely anything you want. Okay, anything on your mind, personal, general, anything goes. All right, no holds barred. I don't think it'll be that bad. Just a reminder, guys, if you guys have finished the cards, please just make sure you're putting them back up here, just so other people can have a chance to look at them as well, too. Okay? So, yeah, once you're done, don't be shy. It's okay to come up near me. I'm not going to bite you. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we just have one more person with one more card. Again, once you're done, you can put it back on the table. Just again, other people can take a look at it too. Okay, guys, so this will just take me a moment to bring Adronis in. Once he comes through, he'll give a brief introduction to himself, and then we're going to move forward into tonight's presentation. When I start the channeling state, you will be noticing that I'll be doing something called orbiting. Okay, this is what I'm doing. Don't worry, there's nothing wrong with me. It's perfectly okay. Right? Just means I'm going into a channeled state, and when I'm orbiting, that's me receiving his transmission, and it's kind of like a purification process. It's kind of helping me to ground and center myself as I bring Adronis in, and he shares this insight. When he comes through, it's a pretty intense experience for people who are quite intuitively sensitive. You may feel them. There was one woman that I did a few years ago when there was a woman in the audience, and I was bringing Adronis through, and it nearly knocked her off her feet. Nearly knocked her right off the chair because the energy was so powerful coming through. So that does happen, and that's just a heads up for the intuitively gifted. All right, in case you don't get knocked off your feet. Okay, so I will go ahead and bring Adronis in. It'll just take me a minute, and we'll get started with the Golden Age. Here we go. And Adronis talks loud, so I think we'll be all right. Okay, here we go. Terra Soul Star Sirius. Adronis. We are here. At this time, we bid you greetings and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this transmission through your group collective consciousness. How are all of you this evening of your time? Great. Good to see you're all alive out there. Yes, we thank you very much once again for the opportunity of this interaction, and of course we will speak on the idea of the topic relating to that of 2037, 2038, the Golden Age. Now, where you are upon your planet in this very moment is a very, very crucial time, because what you are doing is you are, as you would say, evolving yourselves by the skin of your teeth. And what that means is that within the next few years, you're going to be seeing the precipice of a brand new age taking place upon your planet. This is going to represent the fall of everything that you would understand as corruption, the fall of what you would understand in that sense pertaining to control, or in that sense heavy aspects of domination, tyranny. This is all going to be dissolving away completely. As you move forward between now, 2019 to 2024, you will start to see much more dismantling taking place. You will see a lot of work being done behind the scenes as it relates to what you would know as your old agendas dissolving away. You will notice personally that you are going through intense shifts, intense transformations at this particular time, simply because you realize that the energies now are getting so strong that if you don't follow suit, you will be left behind. And what that means is that many of you may just start to go stir crazy, because the energies now are getting so strong, everything is changing so dramatically, that you are noticing that people in that sense that are not following an inner path are feeling like everything is just falling apart at the seams around them. They're having problems with their work, they're having problems with their family, they're having problems with their partner, they're having problems with their children, they're having problems with their financial matters, their careers. Everything is now in an uproar. And again, really what this is saying is that these energies are taking place in the way that they are to help clear out a great deal of debris within yourself that has been brewing along for many generations. You will notice that it was around your post-atomic era, just after the launch of the atomic bomb, where their volunteers were actually taking place and again incarnating upon the planet. So again, around your 1940s or 1950s, this is exactly when these volunteers came together. The minute those volunteers came on the planet, the light had succeeded. So what we mean by that is that these volunteers that come together here, that are the quote-unquote ground crew, have been spending the past several decades blazing trails. Whether they are well known in your mainstream media or not, it does not matter. These trails have been blazed. These golden pathways have been forged. And now, there are so many volunteers upon your planet, well within the hundreds of millions, that are now starting to work in their own way to help uplift people with compassionate service. Because that's all you're really here to do, is when you are part of the ground crew, you work as a compassionate worker. You work as a force of energy that is surrounded by love, shrouded by compassion, and helping those in need. And the more that the world starts to do this a lot more, you will find an easement with where you are going in the times ahead. So, the waves of volunteers, the ground crew, as you would say, have been again here for many decades, helping to plant seeds within your collective consciousness. And they have been doing this vigorously, even though they have been threatened, even though they have felt like everything around their world will be falling apart. They are again being the voices of reason. They are being the voices of love, the voices of compassion, the voices of harmony. In fact, many of you are gathered here in this place where many of them here are available to you, offering services, helping out in that particular way. It does not really matter to us about how you do the service. It does not really matter to us whether you decide to do this for personal work or whether you do this for business. It doesn't matter. The fact is that you're doing it. The fact is that you are helping people out. The fact is you are helping to completely scrub away a great deal of shadow and debris and distortion from hundreds, thousands, or even many thousands of people's lives. So again, this is where we say, honor those people that do this work, because it is one of the most challenging forms of work ever, because there is very much a contingency that has done absolutely everything they can to try and keep yourselves immersed in shadows, to try and keep everything silent, to try and keep things in the dark. Well, guess what? The way energies are right now, nothing can be kept in the dark anymore. None of you can keep secrets anymore. Uh-oh, Adronis. Well, that's how it's going. Because what you're developing yourselves into is becoming an intuitive, an empathic, a telepathic race. Which means that when you get into the time of crossing over to the next density, that's what you will become. So, we are now going to talk a lot more about the Golden Age. So, the aspect of the modern age, as you would know it, ends December of 2037. So, what that means is that when you start to come into the year 2037, there will indeed be a prophecy that has been shared for thousands of years that will therefore come into light. This time represents that of the event being 3 days of darkness. And so that 3 days of darkness is something that has happened before in your ancient past. It has happened approximately 12 to 13,000 years ago. It has also happened approximately 24,000 to 25,000 years ago. In fact, it is something that your Native Americans have experienced. It is something that your ancient Maya has experienced. It's something that ancient Egypt has experienced. It's something that ancient Inca has experienced. Many of these ancient cultures have experienced this particular time relating to a darkness period. This symbolizes the reset. This symbolizes the end of a cycle or the end of an age. And the end of your modern age will be happening approximately around December of 2037. Those of you who are bound to fourth density may not even experience this aspect of change, because what will happen is around that time you will wake up one morning and find yourself completely on a different earth. And you have no idea how you got there. This earth that is being prepared for you has absolutely no forms of human structures on it whatsoever. There is no houses, there are no buildings, there are no monuments, there are no idols, there are nothing in regards to any form of artificial construction. In fact, there's no clothing. Which means you get to run around naked in the bush. Maybe with a fig leaf or two. But it is very much in that way the understanding of another Garden of Eden. Only this Garden of Eden is the entire planet. Now, when you look at this fourth density Earth, yes, it does look a lot different than your third density Earth. Yes, there's still a blue sky. Yes, there's still water. Yes, there's still land. Yes, there's still forests. But you will actually discover a pristine planet that has been completely left untouched, which means there has been no forms of ancient extraterrestrial mining. There has been no forms of, shall we say, pollutant disasters, no forms of toxicity. The air is completely clean. The water is completely pristine. In fact, if you look at your ocean water upon the fourth density, you would feel that you're actually closer to the Caribbean. It is absolutely pristine. It is clear. You can see all the way to the bottom. When you go to many of these areas that you will discover, you can see the ocean. You will also notice that when you go to the fourth density Earth, another Earth will be sitting in the sky. That other Earth is the Earth you're on right now. So there will be a splitting of worlds. There will be a planetary mitosis. And we have been talking about this since around the times to when we first started channeling through this conduit. That the idea of the splitting of worlds is the idea of the third density, Earth starting to move itself into a Stargate-like experience and moving through a type of mitosis like how you would see cells divide. This is exactly what's happening to your Earth. In fact, it was your late Dolores Cannon as well, too, that referred to this as the splitting of worlds. We refer to it as planetary mitosis. We also refer to it as crossing the rainbow bridge. And what is happening is that everything that's taking place right now is a transitory effect. If we were to give an analogy about what this feels like is, imagine a woman in labor, and she is going through the transitional labor period, where there again is a great deal of intensity, a great rush of energy, feeling a great deal of intensity as this new life is about to be birthed. Well, that's exactly what's happening on your planet right now, and has been happening for the past couple of decades. And again, when you're going through this transitory type of labor, things are going to get intense. Things are going to start uproaring themselves. Everything is going to feel very, very powerful, very, very rough. And again, you are noticing that there is a great deal of attention for those who are not going to be anywhere near moving into the shift to create as much chaos as possible, to keeping yourselves occupied on their own movements, on what they do, on what their agendas are. So the more that you're constantly focusing on other people's agendas and completely ignoring your own, you're going to stay behind with them, because that is exactly their mentality. If we're going down on a sinking ship, we're going to take as many people with us as possible. That's their mentality. You will discover this of what you would know as the elitists, or what you term as your cabal, or what you would term as your deep state. Anything of that nature is sufficient, but nonetheless, all of these particular aspects of groups control agendas in that sense, that have controlled your media, that have controlled your education, that have controlled your food, that have controlled your air, that have tried to control absolutely every particular type of system on this planet and even in the astral realm, are all now starting to be dismantled. Another sharing that we have for you, before we get deeper into 2037 and 2038, is your year of 2024. So this is not too far away. This is less than 5 years. And in 2024, you will understand that there will be a lot happening upon your own moon. Many of you are aware about the moon being an artificial satellite. Yes? A spacecraft, not indigenous to your star system, once existing within the planet that you would know as Maldek, and then moved over to Mars, and then brought the Caucasian race from Mars upon Earth during the times of Atlantis. The moon was responsible for that. So, the moon has continued to sit upon the Earth ever since that day. But here's the thing. Your Earth doesn't actually need a moon. It does not need a moon relating to the idea of its own cycles. It has only aligned itself appropriately in the gravitation of your orbit to sit together in a state of complement, relating to the idea of the continuous sense of cycles within your planet pertaining to the magnetic field. But what the moon has also been doing is that it's been blasting frequencies upon the planet. And this blasting of frequencies has to do with heightening of emotional states. If you were to look at the moon's condition approximately 10,000 years ago, you would discover that its own voltage, as it were, its own volume pertaining to this frequency bombardment was at a very low setting. Fast forward up into this very moment of 2019, that dial is now cranked to the maximum. And now it can't do anymore. What is taking place upon your moon right now has to do with the type of intervention involving what you would term as human guardians. These guardians, in that sense, are very much similar in appearance to many of your culture upon this planet, but they are ancient. They are an ancient human race. And they have come upon the moon at this time, and they are now working together in states of negotiation to, at bits at a time, starting to dismantle your moon altogether. By the year 2024, your moon will be completely deactivated. So therefore, the frequency bombardments that are happening around your planet right at that time will cease, meaning that cooler heads will prevail, meaning that there is no more feelings of emotional intensity taking place based upon all of the aspects of frequency bombardment that your moon has solely been responsible for. Now again, when you are looking at the moon, this has to do, again, as an ancient base. This is an ancient spacecraft. This is an ancient laboratory. This is an ancient monitoring station. There are currently 40 different races existing upon the moon at this time. One of those races does involve humans of your planet that have had installations upon the moon since your late 1940s and early 1950s. And many of these particular monitoring stations, in that sense, were actually custom built for humanity in a very small pocket, we will say, at the back side of your moon, what you would refer to as the dark side of the moon. Making sense to everybody? Yes. All right. So that is therefore going to be deactivated around the time of 2024. After that happens, this closes off a window or a span that we have termed, relating to that of 2016 to 2024, that of the span of change. When you move into the 2025 to 2036, this will be the span of renewal, which means by 2025, that moon will no longer be operating in regards to emotional intensity. In fact, we could basically say that the idea of your agendas pertaining to that of the deep state or the elitists will be dead by that time. So by 2025, 2036, you will discover that this will indeed be a time of rebuilding yourselves, re-innovating yourselves, working so much more stronger pertaining to the idea of cooperation and community. Then, of course, we move into that year of 2037 that we have termed the year of climax. Now, this has to do with what is known as a harvest. Now, the harvest has been utilized in regards to several different forms of sources and perspectives of your past. It was actually, in fact, your own Jesus that referred to this as a harvest. It was through your own law of one material that also referred to this as a harvest time. And what this harvest time represents is that it will be you reaping yourselves to move from one density to another. So here's the thing, and again, this goes back to the law of one, which is indeed accurate. 51% or more of the population that is much more compassionately aligned will be the graduates going to fourth density Earth. Anyone below the 50% scale will remain upon third density Earth. So, what this harvest is that there will indeed be beings coming upon your planet and transporting yourselves instantly from one density Earth to the other. Many of you can also refer to this as from fourth dimension to fifth dimension, or third density to fourth density. Now again, relating to the idea of the 3 days of darkness, this again is the grandest of all purgings. It is the idea that your planet will feel this from the very internal of its own core and folding itself up upon the surface. What many of your own elitists have attempted to do is build underground installations to feel that they could survive the idea of the harvest that was to come. No. Everything upon this planet, whether it is on the surface or whether it is internally upon the planet, will feel this ending of a cycle. Now again, much of your elitists have been so scared of this situation unfolding because they've been told flat out for hundreds and even thousands of years, this time will come. And they have been doing absolutely everything they can to try to prevent this from happening including creating the organization that you would know as CERN. And do you know what CERN has mainly been responsible for? Dimensional shifting. Shifting Earth to different dimensions. And that is one of the very reasons you have what you term as the Mandela effect. It is the result of quantum computing. It is the result of actually creating miniature black holes to open up a different dimensional gateway to go into another reality where the harvest doesn't happen. But here's the news that we have for them. The harvest occupies every timeline. So it does not matter what you shift yourself into, you will experience. This is an unavoidable measure. This is an unavoidable cycle. When you move into 2037, everything will shift. Everything will move itself forward. There will be those that will still exist here on the third density Earth after the harvest takes place, and you will still continue on just like your previous generations have carried on in previous harvests. The only difference between this harvest and the harvests previous is that there's actually a splitting of worlds. And it is that splitting of worlds of you being able to cross a rainbow bridge from one density Earth to another density Earth at that time of 2037. Well, Adronis, what does 2038's Earth on the fourth density look like and feel like? That's a great question. Thanks for asking. We will say that 2038, when you start to move upon that planet, as we stated, it will be very, very pristine. You will be a naturally empathic species. You will actually start to discover that when you move into fourth density, the idea of extraterrestrials will no longer be a questionable understanding for yourselves, because you will start to feel, you will start to experience an amplification of your own senses, perceived 100 times greater than now, here in third density. If you were to take your greatest psychic, whoever that may be upon your planet, and saying, well, they have such incredible psychic senses, take that psychic, multiply them by 100, that's what each of you will experience in fourth density. You will become much lighter. Your body will operate in a much more lighter form. You will still have a quote-unquote flesh body, but you will notice that there will be an increase pertaining to the idea of silica within the nature of the physical body occupying fourth density Earth. You will be much more in alignment to the astral realm than you will the physical realm. Now, it's important for you to understand that the physical realm still is an astral realm, but it is an astral realm that contains a great deal of suppression technology. It's like looking at something through a prism or through a lens. And it is basically being bombarded by these frequencies that are keeping this particular dimension completely solidified in the way it does. The idea of third density is that it is actually an artificial dimension. It is not a natural dimension. The aspect to the closest nature of a natural dimension exists within your astral plane. So the third density pertaining to this solidity, this physical body, the physical material that surrounds each and every one of you, is much more in the idea of ancient holography technology. It has been suppressed in the particular way where it has been so deeply condensed, you actually experience what you term in that sense of linear past, linear future, linear yesterday, linear tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. You are looking at things in a very, very condensed scale pertaining to what you believe is a single timeline. What your quantum mechanics is actually teaching you is that there is no such thing as a yesterday, a today, a tomorrow. Everything is happening at the same time. It's all simultaneous. And so when you move into fourth density, you'll be experiencing a lot more of that for yourselves, which means that you will have the opportunity to shift yourselves sideways in time, meaning that you'll actually be able to look at other situations happening, just like you were noticing the idea of the Mandela effect. Only in this aspect pertaining to fourth density, the Mandela effect will be a choice rather than something that you feel has been imposed upon you. You see, third density does not have the senses necessary to determine exactly when a Mandela effect happens, except for those in that sense that have the residual memory pertaining to another dimension. So, for the example of the Mandela effect, many of you believe that Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s, yes? And some of you again feel that no, he passed away in 2009. and that is when he transitioned. All right? Both are valid, because in one particular dimension, he transitioned in the 1980s, and in this particular dimension that you are aware of, he transitioned not too long ago. So this, again, is where both points are indeed accurate. But you see, you cannot prove the aspect of that other dimension to where he transitioned in the 1980s, because all you have is the memory for it. Now, let's imagine that. Here's two timelines. Here's where Nelson Mandela transitioned in the 1980s. Here's where he transitioned appropriately in this timeline. In fourth density, you are aware of both timelines, and you can shift into either one you prefer, which means you can experience them both simultaneously. You can even experience other realities where he transitioned in the 1990s, where he transitioned in 2013, 2014, 2015, etc. You will have access to go sideways in time. And what that means, again, is that you are operating in different frequencies, different realities, based upon preference, intention, choice, and decision. Through preference, intention, choice, and decision, you will decide what reality you wish to work with. This is why when you move into fourth density, you will not have history, but you will have histories. You will have the idea of perspectives operating in different timelines that you can access at the same time. So it's a very, very different experience from third density, because third density doesn't know how to process that. It's too dense. But nonetheless, those two realities with Nelson Mandela exist simultaneously. But you feel that some of you who are indigenous to this timeline feel, no, Nelson Mandela transitioned in 2009. He did not transition back into the 1980s. That is because you are indigenous to this reality. You do not have that particular memory intact. But there are those who have shifted themselves over to this particular timeline. This is what we refer to as collapsing timelines. A timeline has collapsed and merged together with another. And as this has happened, these collapsing timelines become prime timelines, which means that you're not completely forgetting that dimensional memory, but it's merging together with this so that you are now experiencing both the history that is relevant to this dimension as well as holding the memory together with another. And so collapsing timelines take place because this is linear-based reality. But when you move into fourth density, those timelines unfold. And now you're able to see different realities simultaneously. You will also be able to speak with apparitions. You will be able to speak with beings that exist in the astral realm. They can actually manifest a body and start speaking to you. Because you may notice that when you talk to a body, you may scan it, it doesn't even have any internal organs. You're basically talking with a hologram. And if you were to actually touch the hologram or touch the body, it would feel like you're passing your hand through thick cobwebs, because there is no form of infrastructure there. It is a solidified hologram. It is a hologram that has been made etherically. It has been imposed by a field. The field has now pushed itself into this density, and it now operates in a certain frequency to where you can interact with it through all of your senses. This can actually be done in third density as well too. Masters who have been able to thoroughly discipline their mind are able to bring in a duplicate body of themselves, manifesting it together into this reality, and you can actually talk to them. And they can disappear just like that and appear any other particular place in the world. You refer to this commonly as bilocation. But it is the idea that you are creating a lighter astral body in the higher dimensions and dragging it into this timeline, dragging it into this reality, and imposing upon it a vibratory field that is in alignment together with the vibratory quotient that you are experiencing in this reality now. That's how you create a duplicate body. Your yogis have been able to do this. Your ancient mystics have been able to do this. Your sages have been able to do this. All through being able to completely transition from their physical body, manifest a body any particular time they want, at any point, come here, offer you a message, and then leave. So that is indeed possible. And what we're saying in fourth density is that you may actually have the ability to do such a thing as well too. You can create a body that you put your consciousness into, and you can travel the entire universe in fourth density. You can also do that in the third, but it requires a greater disciplined mind relating to that of the third density. So, when you move into fourth density, you will again be part of a galactic society. We will even say that those that exist in third density will also be at the precipice to moving themselves into galactic contact between 2038 and 2050. But when you actually move into fourth density, 2038, you'll be aware. You'll be aware that other civilizations exist. You'll be aware that you'll communicate with those loved ones that are not in body, and they can communicate with you either as apparition or they can manifest a body directly into your reality. It's up to you. So again, it's all part of relationship. The last thing they want to do is scare you or frighten you in any particular way, but this is all based upon the states of permissions. When you come upon this earth, yes, you will certainly eventually rebuild structures. But again, everything will be in harmony with the earth. You will notice that you will live very similarly to how your Amish lived and to how your Native Americans lived. It'll be very much in that form. You'll also start to work with crystals upon the planet. And again, it will also relate to the times of Atlantis, where everything in Atlantis was operated by crystal intelligence. Are you aware of this? Yes, it will return for all of you as well too. So again, there will indeed be cities, platforms in that way, structures that will be created. Yes, maybe your own clothing if that's what you enjoy. But it's all entirely up to you. The ball is in your court. That's what's awaiting you in fourth density. You will also discover that you will notice that there are species in fourth density that you once thought were extinct. And they will be available in fourth density. There are also going to be, in the third density reality, many of these species that you thought were extinct returning in specific areas of the planet. Here's the thing. Mother Nature never allows any species to become fully extinct. They will be veiled across another dimension, or they will be completely picked up through an art craft and taken off into another dimension until a certain time comes where they will be appropriated again upon your planet, but not one of your species on your planet has ever gone fully extinct. There is the belief that they have because they can't find these species anywhere. Of course not, because they have been veiled. They have been retrieved. So again, nothing upon your planet is ever given the permission for full and total extinction. They always exist somewhere. This is why when you notice that upon your planet, there have been many different forms of stories relating to people seeing dinosaurs. That there is the idea that a pterodactyl will at times be shown for a very, very short period, crossing into your dimensional plateau and then vanishing again. Well, this is the idea in that sense of crossing intersecting dimensional lines. And they only exist for a certain period. Now, this may also surprise you, but many of you have actually crossed into different dimensional Earths for only a very short amount of time before you come back into your own indigenous Earth that you understand. This is happening all the time. Because here's the thing. What is your Earth? Can any of you share? Is it round? Yes. Is it hollow? No. It is a honeycomb Earth. It is a clustered Earth, which means it contains cells. It contains pockets. So when you actually go into the interior of your Earth, you will find certain forms of structures that look very, very similar to what you would find within a beehive, representing that of honeycombs. So it is very much like your body. If we were to basically take your body, drain all the fluids out of it, would it actually be a hollow body? Well, there'll be hollow sections, but no, everything has its own infrastructure. Well, it's the exact same thing with the Earth. The Earth has its own infrastructure. Now, there are two hollow openings at the northern and southern poles of your planet, but these are portals. And these can actually take you into different dimensions because the majority of the interior of your planet exists in fourth density. It is mostly what you find upon the surface and in certain vaults around the subterranes of your planet that actually remain third density. But most of your planet, looking into the idea of volume, approximately 77% of your planet actually exists in fourth density already because that's its infrastructure. So what is happening is that upon the surface, this is going to unfold. And as this unfolds, this is what's encompassing you in a type of cocoon and shifting this particular planet to where the membrane starts to expand, and now fourth density exists through an unfolding. Again, it's like looking at a woman giving birth to a new child, or a cell dividing upon itself, but the cell that's dividing upon itself is actually creating another cell that exists in another dimension. And those that are in the alignment to when that cell divides will be taken to that new planet in alignment as it happens through the planetary mitosis. But 77% of your planet is already fourth density compliant. Now, when we basically have spoken that if we look at your entire Earth, we would say that your entire Earth right now is fourth density compliant, because the surface is now going through all these particular changes and shifts and alignment it needs to be in so that it can therefore cross to the other side, cross to the other dimension. So we would say that when we look at Earth, it is already a fourth density compliant planet, and it has happened since 2016, because that too was a year of a great shift. So when you continue to work together with yourselves, bringing yourselves up into the higher compassionate scales, which means give a lot more compassion to others than you do yourselves. And that's how you become a graduate moving into fourth density. That's how it's done. So open a door for a person and smile. Say hello to people on the street. Everything that you do, saying, will this help to serve others? And that is the alignment necessary to move into fourth density, because it is a compassionate domain, which means everything pertaining to the corruption, to the pollutants, to the toxins of everything that's been happening pertaining to distortion here in third density will not be riding forward in fourth density. The people that occupy fourth density are of a very specific frequency, meaning that they would never, in any particular form whatsoever, do harm to their planet or to each other or to the animals or to the life upon it. It will be a very, very pristine world. We understand that when many of you look at this and saying, Adronis, this must be some type of pipe dream. Well, again, if you look at it from that perspective, you can only imagine this reality in a third, and that's where you'll be. It's when you start to work together with compassion, it's when you work together with your inner selves that you will discover that this actual shift that's taking place will not seem so far-fetched, because you'll feel it. As we stated, that between now and 2037, you will feel yourselves occupying almost two different worlds at once. You will feel yourselves and your feet upon fourth density, looking up at a sky where you see another Earth representing that of third density. And at the same time, you're still here in the third. So the third and fourth will continue to flash in and out. And you'll continue to transition and feel a lot more of this coming together, bit by bit by bit, until you get to the point of that rollover where 2037 takes place, and therefore you move from one dimension into another. So when you come upon that time, those that remain in third density will be experiencing the 3 days of darkness. Well, Adronis, what does this entail? Think of it as being back inside the womb with, again, on a very strong planetary level. People will actually create their own greatest fears because they have no idea what's going on, and it could actually become so frightening that they would actually cause fatality within themselves. You see, it's not actually a doomsday prophecy. It's not a catastrophic event that's taking place. In fact, your Native Americans have already talked about this time, and they too are not even afraid of it. It's a time of great reflection. It's a time of being born again. Just as your Jesus said, everybody is born a second time. First time through the water or the womb of your mother. Second time spiritually. And it is a spiritual unfoldment. And those who are born a second time will go to the new earth. And that again relates to the energies of compassion. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be uncertain. But nonetheless, you know that as you do this work, love is always guiding you. Support is always around you. The work that you require yourselves to do is not that of a difficult task. It's the idea of shedding all this excess weight, because that's what the energy on your planet right now is telling all of you to do in the first place. Shed this unnecessary weight. Shed this unnecessary skin. For it's like a snake that's shedding its skin. and is able to leave that skin behind. Well, Adronis, how will this effect happen pertaining going to third density to fourth density? The third density body itself will be left behind. You won't be taking the third density body with you. Basically, for some people, it will feel as if you've died, and your third density body remains. For some, it will actually feel like you've just disappeared from this third density reality. You are here one moment, you shift, and all of a sudden you're in a fourth density body. The third density body cannot go for the ride because it is not compatible with a fourth density matrix. It will basically obliterate itself. So this is why quite a few people that shift from third to fourth will have their physical body left behind. People will look at that body, and in the words of the late Dolores Cannon, what a poor person. They died believing in all of that stuff. And then in fourth density, you pop into this new reality, and here you are. In this new reality, in this new earth, in this new, beautiful, pristine planet. So again, that is what's going to take place. Now, around the time of 2037, it is also quite possible that there will be ships coming down collecting people. Now again, it is difficult to say how much in scale this will be, but basically those that are attempting to come down to retrieve you are not really the type of ones that you want to be on board a ship with. So if there is any particular invitation regarding to a ship upon that time, our recommendation, refuse the offer. These again have to do with those that have been feeding off you for quite a very long time, and they will play any particular type of trick in the book. This also goes back into the time of what you would know as your biblical proverb, where the idea that many people will be tested at this time. Saying, oh, hey, we're here to take you off this planet because all this shift is happening. You ready to come with us? Okay, I'll go with you. Some people will actually feel like they're in a trance, and they won't actually know that this is happening. They'll just feel like they're going to go on board these ships. So this again is where you are being very strong-willed and saying, nope, I am staying right here on this planet during the time of this shift. So this is quite a very large possibility. Again, the scale of its intensity is uncertain, but there will be ships coming down trying to take certain people off planets. Again, representing the idea that this is indeed a type of addiction relating to those of these particular beings whom they have been tagged and do not want to leave this world without having part of their quote-unquote property with them. And so be very, very wary around that time. Should there be any particular crafts coming down around the time of 2036, 2037, 2038, we recommend do not get on those ships. All right? We thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction regarding the Golden Age, 2037 and 2038. We will now open up the floor, as it were, and begin an open question and answer period for all of you. Please feel free to work together with your moderator in any way that she feels is appropriate, and we are happy to take any questions from you. Thank you. And please say your name as you communicate with us.
Oh, hi. This is Pete Rocco.
Hello, Pete.
Hello. When you were talking about these ships, the dark ships that could come,
yes.
Is this the clinic?
The clinic?
Yeah.
Depends on what you mean by a clinic.
I've known about a ship that was called the clinic that took people off and did experiments on them and so forth.
Many of these ships are Orion in nature.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
And again, what that relates to is, as we stated, not all of the Orion Empire in that sense are like this, but this is very much what you would know as the riffraff. And so there are those of the Orion nature, there are those of the beings that you commonly may know as the Greys in that sense, that are basically attempting to take beings off planets and will often disguise themselves through a type of mental telepathy as highly evolved beings.
Thank you.
So again, some people will be tricked, and it can really not be avoided other than the idea of doing your inner work now to transcend that process. Again, we cannot say the idea of the scale. It may be very small, it may be very large. It all depends on the timelines that you choose ahead. Does that help?
Yes, very much.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Hi, my name's Anita.
Hello, Anita.
Hi. I heard that when this shift happens, that
Yes.
a number of people will kind of fall into a sleep and then
Yes.
wake up on ships sometimes.
At times,
How
it depends
can-
upon the person.
Okay, so you actually are given a choice, though?
Of course,
Okay.
always.
Wonderful.
Because the whole idea is, here's the thing. When many of you reach a certain vibrational level, you are incorruptible. You cannot be corrupted. You cannot be coerced. Your inner senses are so strong, no one can even take a hold of you pertaining to that type of deception. It's those in that sense that are very much, shall we say, in the survival mentality of life. They are much more self-oriented than self-of-others-oriented. And again, those are the ones that are most likely the ones to be caught up in such a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it does not always have to relate to the idea of sleep. As we stated, it may relate to the idea of a trance,
Right.
where you're not even fully aware of your surroundings, you're just entranced. It feels like you black out. And the next moment you may awaken. Yes, you may be on a ship, or again, you may be in fourth density. It all depends upon the person, the situation, their mentality, their alignment. All right?
Thank you. If
This is why we say, again, be very steadfast and aware that when that time approaches, because you have 18 years, that when that time approaches, you are very, very centered in remaining here to move up from one density Earth to the other. Those that leave the planet will not be able to go to fourth density. You have to be here. Because this is the transit. This is the rainbow bridge that's taking you from one dimension to another.
Great.
It cannot be done off planet.
And why are ships, I've heard that there are ships here now.
There are many ships here now, yes.
Yes.
Some with different orientations, different agendas, as you would say. There are those of what you would refer to as the Galactic Confederation of Planets that are actually here right now, and they are, shall we say, creating perimeters upon these planets so that there's no other interference coming upon this Earth, so that the Earth can go through her natural cycle, as we've just described. But there are still, in that sense, onlookers that have their own particular agendas in mind. Some of them represent the Orions, some of them represent the Greys, some of them, again, have different orientations that you've never heard of, but they, too, would want to act the same as taking certain humans off the planet at a certain time. Again, we are uncertain of the scale to when this may happen. Mm-hmm. It may be a little bit, it may be a lot. It all depends. It may not even happen at all, because that can shift as well, too. It all depends upon you.
I have one more question,
Yes.
and that is, you had mentioned about seeing a second Earth from this Earth.
Yes.
And you had, I thought you said that that would even happen before the shift?
Well, again, understand fourth density Earth will be aware of third density Earth. Third density Earth will not be aware of the fourth. So you will be invisible to them. So if you are on the third density Earth, for example, you could not see any fourth density beings. It's not within your alignment to do so. You may actually have telepathic contact, but you cannot see them in regards to their own vibratory states where they exist in that dimension.
I see.
In fourth density, yes, fourth density is aware of all the dimensions that are below it. So you will see the Earth, you will see the moon in third density, pertaining to the moon that you have right now. That moon is the only celestial body in your star system that's not moving to the fourth. Mainly because it is, shall we say, a technological artificial sphere. Mm-hmm. Its life has basically been taken right out of it. It still contains an aura of life upon the surface, but it is very much surface-based. Your moon would be hollow, not honeycomb. Mm-hmm. All right? Because it has been completely hollowed out. It is a satellite. It is a vessel. And it is not indigenous to the star system. It is the only body that is not uplifting. Every other body will uplift, which means you'll see 2 Venuses. You'll see 2 Mars. You'll see 2 Jupiters. You'll see 2 Saturns, etc. The third density equivalent and the fourth density equivalent.
Very cool.
And you all know that Saturn was once your sun, yes?
Oh.
And you once know Mercury was once your moon, yes? Mercury was once your moon, approximately 13,000 years ago, and Saturn was once your star, your own sun, many, many, many thousands of years ago.
What was the sun?
Your sun was Saturn.
No, but what was our current sun?
Your current sun, again, is the sun that you have shifted yourselves to to allow the survival of this star system to take place. So pretty much all orbiting bodies within the star system were moved over to that star after the Saturn sun was taken over. It is basically a dying star that appears as a planetary body. The rings around Saturn themselves are basically a restraint. It is a magnetic, in that sense, type of enforcement, a restraint altogether. It is the idea of what you would know as a particular type of control, and it was brought forward through what you would know as the Draconian Empire during a time of dissension. All right, does that help?
Yes.
Questions?
Two questions. Number
Hello,
one.
by the way.
Pardon?
What is your name?
Oh, Nancy becoming Gracie, so I guess Gracie.
Nancy becoming Gracie.
Yeah.
You're becoming two different people.
Yes. Ah, yeah, one for third dimension, density, one for fourth.
Well, hello, Nancy becoming Gracie.
Hello.
Can we call you Nanacy?
Call me what?
Nancy.
Okay, that's a
All
good
right.
name. What will this, quote, new race be called on this fourth density Earth? Like light beings or?
Well, you could look at it in that particular way. You'll still be human in that way. We would refer to you in that sense of being advanced humans.
Say it again, please.
Advanced humans.
Advanced, but will we have like a bigger, more sophisticated name?
Do you want to give yourselves one?
Sure. Yeah.
You
Class.
are now known as the Gaians. All right. Have fun with that. Because you can
And
really call yourself, you can take a poll if you want. But again, it really doesn't matter what you call yourselves. You will become a fourth density species of human.
yeah, not like the enlightened race or something.
Well, again, enlightened race is, again, much more of a broader term. Because the whole idea is that as long as you are a race, you're still learning. When you move into a state of enlightenment, you're completely at peace with God. You're still working on that, even in the fourth density. Not everything will be perfect in fourth density. You will still go through challenges. The closest degree of sickness in fourth density will relate to the idea of emotional stagnancy. And that will still happen to some of you. You will still have challenging times, but you will still be very much aligned to cooperation, community, and compassion.
Well, if we're going to be like the Garden of Eden, we might as well call ourselves the oneness race.
If you wish,
Okay.
take a poll.
Okay. And on a personal level, am I going to have a little, medium, or a lot influence in this new future?
Well, you would have to look at your reality right now. How are you feeling with everything that's taking place?
On Earth now, or what
Yes,
you're saying?
Here and now.
Oh, I don't like what's happening right now.
Because you want a better world, yes?
Right.
There you go.
Okay.
Those that want a better world and are doing what they can through compassionate work will be a part of such a new world.
And there's no way to take everybody with us.
Many of you would love that, but again, here's the thing. You all operate with free will. Which means that your family member, because this is said to us a lot, Adronis, what about my family? What about my friends? What about my children, etc.? Well, first of all, with your children, you have nothing to worry about. Children are well ahead of you. But it's the adults themselves that will have much more of a challenging time because they have been on this planet longer and they have succumbed to the idea of greater programming and manipulation than your children have. So your children are actually going to be much more of the forerunners, much more of the leaders. But you have to understand everybody has free will. Because you have free will, you have to respect the idea that they have to make their own choices. Just be the example. Be the result of the person that you wish to be and nothing else. Help them if you wish, but again, ultimately it's their decision, just like it's your decision to move from one earth to another.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Questions?
It's Sue.
Hello, Sue.
What can we do to help Saturn?
What can you do to help Saturn? Maybe give it blessings? Send it love? But here's the thing. Do not concern yourself so much about what Saturn is going through right now because your Earth needs your love, because that's the planet that you're on. So as you start to do a lot of your love work with the Earth and with each other, you have more love energy that you want to send Saturn, you certainly can. But you have to understand that the idea of Saturn's own, shall we say, situation will naturally unfold to a state of exposure. Because here's the thing. Many of you don't even know that Saturn was once your sun. And very few upon your planet actually realize this. In order for that aspect, for Saturn herself, to move into a higher degree of love, the majority of your planet must be aware of this. And so allow it to move into a personal state of disclosure and exposure as it needs to. But if you wish in your own way, you can send her love, because she too is a goddess. Love the goddess that Saturnia represents. Rather than seeing her in chains, seeing her as a free, light-giving spirit, and honor that within her. That's how you make a difference. Because everything that relates to enlightenment upon your planet has been heavily perverted into the aspect of demonism. Your divine feminine has been so heavily demonized upon your planet that when you look at the idea of Saturn, some of you instantly think Satan. And if you look at the idea of Satan, you instantly think of a devil. And if you look at Lucifer, you instantly think of the devil. No, no, and no. All of those are goddesses. Lucifer is an archangel goddess. Satan represents a priestess connected to Isis, that is connected to the star of Sirius, to which we exist. Even the word sin itself points to the idea of a Sumerian goddess, or the idea of the moon, which means everything that represents the sacred feminine has been so dirtied upon your planet that many of you think it is demonic worship. It's not the case. The demonic worship has actually been imprisoning these goddesses in capsules and actually causing them into a state of restraints because they've been attacked, they've been mutilated, they've been brutalized, they've been completely manipulated to the point where you feel as soon as you look at them, there is a grotesque, satanic, demonic energy that represents them. And that has never been the case. You have to look at the ones that were responsible for doing that, because those ones, in that sense, did not involve the goddesses themselves. That's the difference. Lucifer is not Satan. Satan is not even Satan. Sin is not Satan. These are all inventions created by a darker force that puts together these capsules containing once harmonious aspects of being in chains and manipulation. Do your research. Look into this yourself, and you will see it. All right? Questions?
Hey, Adronis.
Hello.
My question is...
Is this Laura?
Yes.
Hello, Laura.
When we were in a much more advanced state and we existed in higher dimensional realities, we were vulnerable to attack even when we were in the upper quadrants of like dimensions 10, 11, 12.
Yes.
So when we move into like fourth density and beyond, what this time around gives us that extra protection to not be attacked by the Draconian Empire or Orion Group or any of the ones that have compromised us before? Is it because we've learned the lesson and we've learned greater protection and it's different this time, or is it a loop that's going to repeat itself?
Those that have basically discovered the way of how to liberate themselves can no longer be opposed by the aspect of draconian rule. So it is the idea of you moving into a new membrane, a new veil, to where those that represent compassionate service, that are not in that sense completely in any way manipulated or associated together with any particular form of corrupt rule, they will prevent themselves from going into that particular alignment, and the result of that effect is veiling themselves into a new dimension where that universe itself is now completely, shall we say, secluded away from such powers. This has all been a learning experience for all of you. And once you start to move into that particular alignment of knowing that you can no longer be coerced or corrupted, it can't happen to you again. This is basically what you would know as your final moment on stage, to realize you have done so much work with yourselves that you have now become in alignment of graduation to enter a veil where the aspect of the universe that you enter is free from all of that particular corruption. Therefore, those in fourth density won't experience anything pertaining to the controlling of what has happened in the third, because they're in two different universes apart from that playing out. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Thank you. Questions?
Larry from Pittsburgh.
Hello, Larry. From
And thank you,
Pittsburgh.
Adronis, for being
We
here.
are Adronis from Sirius.
Yes. Good one. If you could offer some guidance on finding some balance, and I'll give you some thoughts on two different poles, if it were.
Yes.
One is what we're hearing tonight and all that you're sharing with us that is unknown to most of our population. One option I see, I can go out and spread this word to as many people as I can, and in many ways I have. But on the other side of this, you've spoken of working on my own soul, my own personal evolution. And so could you offer some guidance as to where to find that balance?
But do you see how they are one and the same? Because the aspect of the work that you do is the fruition of what your soul is doing to evolve itself. So the idea of your work, of what you do to share this knowledge, and you don't even have to share this knowledge because nobody needs to know this advanced knowledge because it is quite advanced. Many of you may not even believe in the idea of a 2037, even though it's going to happen. That is going to be a calendar year. But again, many of you don't even have to know this because all you're doing is you're staying in your reality, being of compassionate service. So the whole idea of you doing service is just equal to the idea of you doing your own inner processes, working with meditation, moving together with mudras, working with mantras, whatever you wish. It's all the same because everything that you do without is a reciprocation of complement to what you are discovering within, and therefore sharing this news is a result of what you have culminated within yourself to bring balance to those two hemispheres.
Okay, thank you.
Make sense? All right. Thank you.
Hi, this is Vo from New York.
Hello.
Hello. I have basically two questions about the sun.
What is your name again?
Vo.
Lo?
No, Vo. VU.
VU.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi. So.
Questions of the sun, yes.
Yes, I think since after July 4, after all of the chemtrails have stopped, the sun has been
Yes.
really, really spectacular. If you go out and see the sunset, I mean,
Yes.
usually.
It always has been. It always has been spectacular.
Yes,
But again, what's going to happen is that as the chemtrails stop and your skies start to clear, you'll get much more of the purity of the sun coming through.
Right. Okay, another thing is my brother actually is also a light worker. So when he really gazed intentionally at the sun, he saw some sort of a little gray dish carved in
Yes.
front of it.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit on
It's
that?
a geometry, because that's what your stars are. You will notice that you can discover this with your own cameras. If you actually zoom into a star, you will actually start to see geometry or like a disk spinning.
Right.
Well, that's the nature of how suns themselves operate. They're geometry. And so it's a natural geometry. The same is with your planet as well, too. You had another planet in sight as well, too, and you zoomed in during a bright day in that way, you would also see its geometry. It's the idea of the hologram bleeding through the idea of what actually exists. It's not just a ball of light. It's a geometry of light. It's luminous in that way, pertaining to holographic geometric patterns that again represent the synthesis of a naturally perfected universe utilizing such a geometry scale.
Oh, okay,
So your
great.
own sacred geometry is the natural mathematics of the universe.
Okay.
Holography.
Another question I think is just from my brother. He felt that, let's say, the race like the sphere being on the blue avian, probably we know the sun also the portal. So he guessing is let's say the blue avian can actually reside inside the sun. Does it make any sense?
What did he see residing with?
We talk about the blue avian, the one that contact very good, that kind of thing.
All right. What about
Yeah.
that?
Well, he think that they could be reside right inside the sun.
They are not, but
They're
that's
not.
an idea.
Okay. All right. Go back to the sun.
Resides
I'm
within
sorry.
your sun is what you would refer to as spirit.
Yes.
Spirit resides within your sun. It is the giver of all life. Through
Right.
this entire
To our solar system, right.
Yes. And you understand that your sun right now is fourth density.
Right.
And so everything that's happening right now is the transitional effects of the planets catching up to the star that again, hence 2037, will catch up in that way.
Okay.
With the exception of your moon.
Right. We know they're going to go away. One more question.
No, it's not going to go away.
It's just-
going to stay there.
Okay.
Because you have to investigate that. Those
Right.
of you in third density and those of you in fourth if you wish.
All right. You mean that all the control system from the moon will stop?
Everything to the moon will be exposed.
Right.
So there will be parties, as it were, that will go up to the moon and will actually start to discover all this technology with guides telling them everything about what the moon did.
Right.
Which means everything within your star system is going to come to light, just like everything on your planet right now is coming to light. You will know exactly why the moon is there. You will know exactly why Maldek exploded. You will know exactly why Mars, in that sense, had the disaster that it did. You will learn about the outer planets as well, too, including Saturn. All of this is going to come together in the fruition within the next 300 years. So it'll be for your future generations to discover everything that's happened and how these beings were able to try to control your entire star system. How they were also able to sabotage other particular dimensions, just like Laura shared as well too, that moving up into different dimensions, they were all infiltrated. They were infiltrated technologically, and that's how they did it. And so the whole idea is you'll discover how this technology was actually done, utilizing vibrational mechanics. Everything will be out in the open in time.
So let's say we also heard that with the current short warm climate that's coming, but we actually going to have a mini ice age. So what can we?
You will not have a mini ice
No?
age. No. You will not have a solar flash, and you will not have a mini ice age. You will not have a planet X smashing against your planet either. That is not happening, because many of you still don't even know what planet X is. You're actually looking at a star, not a planet. And again, that is in no danger whatsoever of causing any particular smashing in. You understand that that is not how Maldek met its end? Did you know how Maldek died? An internal nuclear
I got internal civil war.
An internal nuclear war. It was destroyed from the inside out. Just as if you were to put a cherry bomb inside of a sphere at its core and then detonate it. That's exactly what happened to Maldek. Exploded from the inside. If you had a planetary-to-planetary collision, first of all, that planet would be partially destroyed as well, too. It would not remain completely intact. You understand that Maldek was 10 times the size of the Earth? Enormous. And therefore, the idea of smashing a planet through would not cause a full debris field that your asteroid field currently has, because there is no large chunk that would represent the remains of a large planet, which could be easily identified even by your amateur astronomers. That's not what's happened. Everything is basically in a very strong state of debris relating to the asteroid belt. So therefore, the idea of that came through combustive explosion from the inside of Maldek, where the comets within your star system are debris of oceans from Maldek. All the comets within your star system are part of Maldek. There are also other planets within the outer belt of your star system that have also been destroyed as well too, through internal war. Some of these were satellites, or what you term as moons, and that would be the one just outside of Neptune's region. So there's a lot more to your star system than you may actually know. You understand that there are Earth-like planets contained within your Oort cloud, which is in the outer border of your star system. They are insectoid worlds, because this entire star system was originally under insectoid jurisdiction. So basically, you could say that the insectoids, in a way, adopted you to allow yourselves to work with this planet, because this is indeed, by their own definition, their territory. You will actually discover that in every particular planetary sphere in this star system contains some type of insectoid life internally within the planets and the moons. Every single sphere contains some type of insectoid life. Some are reptilian as well too, indigenous reptilian, but mostly insectoid. Something else to put under your belt to say, hey, I know this now, let me share you a story.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just one last question.
Yes.
So going forward, what can we expect more from the glorious, vibrant sunset? Is that going to more
What
than
can you
that?
expect from the witch?
You know, beside the glorious, vibrant sunset and sunrise.
Well, you can expect many things. Again, the complete and total exposure of everything that's been happening upon your planet. That is due to happen before the end of this age, which means you'll know everything. Everything that's taken place upon this planet before the end of the age, it has to come out. It cannot be bottled up. Any attempt to bottle it up, it'll overflow and it'll just splurge past that obstruction. Before the end of this age, you will understand everything that has been meant for the state of control on this planet, because it relates to the end of this age. It needs to be exposed by the end of this age. So you think you've seen a lot yet pertaining to exposure, you haven't seen anything yet. There's going to be a lot more shocking discoveries relating to the idea of people being silenced and what has happened to those people who have been silenced, to the idea of what you would know as advanced forms of understanding demonic rituals that have taken place through many people in that sense within your common media that have been responsible for it. You will see all of this unfold. There's a lot to be discovered. All right? That's, again, just a tip of the iceberg.
Thank you.
You will know much more about what's happened to extraterrestrial ships that have been shot down. You will know much in regards to what the military actually possess. A lot more than what you're being told. Think a little flying saucer is all they have? Oh, no. They have technology to completely enter a new universe. They have technology in that sense that could completely shift the orbits of this planet, that it can actually, in that sense, destroy other planets, but they do not have access to that type of weaponry. Think of it in the idea of what Nikola Tesla was able to discover and amplify that by many fold. That's what much of your government has had since the time of his passing. You have devices that can communicate with other planets, practical, technological devices where you can see, you can hear, you can even plug yourself in, and you can feel exactly what the being is feeling that's talking to you. They have that kind of technology. They have Stargate technology. They have portal technology. They have advanced spacecraft technology. All of this is available. And this will continue to be discovered. Again, everything that is crucial to your development relating to what has been suppressed to you on a planetary level will come at the end of this age. And as you move into the next age, you will notice you'll have access to much of this technology that they were denied in using. Because much of it right now is shut down, deactivated, taken away from them, put in vaults. So, looking forward to that?
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, Adronis. I'm Jean.
Hello, Jim.
A quick question back about the Orions. I've always been confused when people talk about the negative aspects of the Orions because...
Now, we are not saying that they are negative because they have been born into these particular forms of agendas, because there truly is an innocence to every single being. It's the idea that they have very much been coerced into this agenda because that is part of their upbringing. They have been designed to rule. And because they are also having the idea of their own genetics manipulated with, just like you've had your genetics manipulated as well too in the past. You were originally a 12-strand species, and now you're 2. Many of them in that sense are triple-strand species, but they too have also been manipulated as well too. So it's not the idea of thinking that they are quote-unquote evil. They are simply following an agenda through what they are in that sense in fear of, and fear of repercussions by what they term as a higher power.
When I look up at the night sky and I see that the Orion constellation, I feel an overwhelming sense of peace, home, family. Are you able to talk about the, for lack of a better term, the original, the Orions before corruption?
You have to understand that the Orion's belt, in that sense, even the Orion's belt itself, is what you would know as 3 of the most powerful portal systems in your entire galaxy. That's why there is a 600,000-year Orion War being fought over those 3 stars. Because that is the most powerful portal that exists within your star system. You cannot see it from your own angle, but they actually form a triangle. But you cannot fully see it from the angle that you are positioning yourselves in. If you were actually orienting yourselves together, they would form more of a triangular base. And you would actually see this very similar to what you term as your Bermuda Triangle. They are, in that sense, a portal system to where the grandest light from spirit actually came into the star system. You would think of it as what you would term as the crown chakra of the entire galaxy. That's Orion's belt. So the whole idea here is the crown chakra. And again, Arcturus would be, shall we say, second in line for that because it is a violet star. But the idea in that sense of Orion's belt actually brings in white light, spirit light. And it would be much more of a higher crown chakra pertaining to your own galaxy. So there has been a very, very strong effort to try and keep these three stars in the idea of the possession pertaining to the beings that you would know as the Draco, because that's the last thing they want. They have tried to shroud this entire galaxy into darkness. But again, everything that Earth is experiencing right now is part and parcel of what is happening throughout the entire galactic structure, which means the light is coming through. That's why you're entering into these light points as you travel through the galaxy. So everything pertaining to the Orion has actually been servants of great innocence. The original Orion people, in that sense, were very much as indigenous as you are. But many of them, in that sense, have been genetically manipulated, genetically altered, and many of them, in that sense, to actually form these forms of slaves. And so when you're actually looking at the Orion constellation, yes, it's one of the most beautiful constellations there is because it is the constellation ushering in the spirit light. And those particular stars are now being reactivated again. And spirit light will indeed come through them. All right?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Questions?
Hi, my name is Jeannie. I have a couple of questions. First, to go back to the ships that are going to be coming down.
Orion's coming,
And
yes.
you tell me to say no?
Well, we would recommend that. We can't tell you what.
Well, I follow your advice, not to worry. So, my question is, can they take me against my will? Like, can I just flip
they
them the
cannot.
bird, turn around and walk away?
This is a very different modality from what you would refer to on third density as you would say kidnapping. It cannot come through physical force, which means a thought chases them away.
Okay.
You say, leave my space now, they're gone.
Okay.
They can't even touch you. And that's through a simple thought. So it is very, very different. It is not like a stalker in the alley waiting to grab you by the arm. It doesn't work that way. With these particular ships, they have to try and coerce you, convince you that they are the divine. But now that you are being informed that that's not what's happening, because think of it in this way. If the divine was indeed responsible for putting you upon this planet during this time of a cyclic shift, why in any way would it try and take you off from that? You see? This again is a catch-22. It's the idea that through a simple intention, through a simple thought, saying, nope, I am not doing that, leave my space, and they're gone. Simple as that. The moment that you retaliate with a simple thought, they leave your space right away because you honor your free will. All right?
Okay, thank you. My other question is,
Now,
there's...
first contact will happen, but in a much more softer, loving, gradual way. You're going to invite them on the planet. They're not going to invite themselves down. So,
They have an open invitation to come see me
reality.
anytime.
Yes, it's always invitation. You're the forerunner. You're the runner for that invitation.
Okay. My other question is, there has been a rise in ADHD, or people being diagnosed
Yes.
with this, I should say, and autism. Does this have anything to do with the ascension? Like, are these people stuck between two dimensions that they don't?
Well, they may feel that they're stuck, but really in that sense, when you're looking at ADHD or the aspect of autism, these are false diagnoses created by toxicity, often found within vaccinations.
Okay.
So the idea of schizophrenia, the idea of ADHD or autism that way, are common symptoms found within the toxic metals contained within the inoculations many of you receive. So this too is going to be exposed. Or in fact, not one of you will really want to invoke any form of vaccination upon yourselves or your children once the truth is exposed. It'll die. And new vaccinations will be created, but many of you will know exactly what's in it, or to be safe. There are safe vaccinations, and there are vaccinations that can indeed help you. But again, this is all part of an agenda, just like your chemtrails, just like the idea of these pedo gates, etc., that have been happening. All of it is agenda-based, trying to disguise itself in plain sight, to feel like, oh, we would never harm you, we're the government.
That's funny.
And it is wonderful to hear your reaction, because now you see through the aspect of the deception now. So keep that up and spread the word.
I work in a hospital, and I say all the time, first of all, they make us get a flu shot or we lose our job.
Yes.
So they give us a flu shot that does not work,
Yes.
and then they sell us the flu test
Yes.
to find out that we have flu,
You notice how
and
you
then
are
they
sick
sell us
afterwards?
the Tamiflu to
Yes.
cure our flu,
Correct.
which we weren't supposed to get from
So
the.
in
It's
other words,
a
we'll pollute you
freaking
and we'll
racket.
cure you of that pollution. That's the whole idea. But again, you're not even cured because it's just more of these particular forms of viruses and other forms of agents that have been put into your body to deactivate certain centers to basically keeping you very numb.
Mm-hmm.
It's a numbness. It's like injecting yourself with Novocaine. And then it gets going into your own mitochondrial levels of DNA, and it's shutting down these important pairs. And again, these pairs become, in that sense, completely neutralized. But here's the thing, you can reactivate them again. And that, again, is following much more of a holistic life.
Okay. I meditate daily. Is that something that would help against those things?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
You may also want to look into what you commonly know as Ormus. Ormus itself helps to reverse these effects.
What is Ormus? Is that like
Orbitally
organite?
rearranged molecular elements. What you would know as monoatomic gold, monoatomic silver. Elements in that sense that are safe to digest that completely reactivate areas that have been shut down by vaccinations. You can also do this with pyramid technology. You can also do this with torsion waves. You can also do this with radionics. You can also do this with certain scalar technologies. You can also do this with crystals. You can do this with crystal grids. There's no shortage. You can also do this directly with spirit as you bond a harmonious connection with spirit. Spirit can take it all right away as you connect to the intelligence dimension, which will be discussed a lot more in detail through tomorrow's class that Brad himself will do. Spirit Ambassador Classroom. Quote unquote. We thought we'd give Brad a little bit of leeway there. All right, thank you very much. Any other questions?
Yes, hi, my name is Dawn.
Hello, Donna.
Hi, so most of this information is new for me, so
right.
although
You
I have...
understand it's like getting a drink from a fire hose.
Right? Yes.
So we will basically create a water fountain for you.
Okay. So I have like 100 questions, but I'll just ask two. Like you, I guess you are not in a linear time zone then, because you seem to see the future.
We exist in what you would know as the seventh density reality of existence.
Okay.
An angel, you would say. Angelic intelligence.
Okay. And then I have a question, I guess, do all the planets in the universe go through their shifts in density at different moments in time? And then do these beings, I guess might tempt us or off the planet or whatever, do they go through their shifts?
All right.
And
the answer to your first question is yes, every single planet goes through this naturally. Now, when it comes to your Earth, it is the only planet that is actually having induced labor.
Okay.
Which means that this particular situation of what's happening is actually being induced by a great amount of intervention because the takeover of this planet had been so severe that the aspect of intervention in this way was necessary. But there are many other planets that are not often, in that sense, as you would say, taken over by a form of dominating rule. No, this is all a very natural process. It's very much like how you would plant a seed in the ground, you'd water it, you'd take care of it, it starts to sprout, and eventually the bulb opens and behold the beautiful flower. That beautiful moment where the bulb unfolds and you see that flower, that's the ascension of the planet.
okay, and like the Dragonians, I
Yes.
guess, have they gone through their shift of enlightenment?
They have avoided it
Okay.
because they simply want to stay behind and rule. It goes back to the old saying that many of you have adopted as well too, maybe not in this group but in others. It is better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. And they want to rule in hell.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is their mentality. There is no other race that can really oppose them. And so it's very much like a bully who has never in that sense had a bully in their life.
Mm-hmm.
But this is happening now because Draco are now starting to turn against Draco. Because there are many Draco that are actually coming together in a loving, compassionate sense. And many of them, in that sense, are moving towards the light. Which means this is all part of the beginning of the end of their own empires as well, too. It is going to crumble.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
All right. In fact, you would say that there are actually many Draco officers contained within your galactic confederation of planets that work together harmoniously with humans. Now, there are many different types of Draco. There are Draco that are human-like. There are Draco that are reptilian-like. There are Dracos that are dragon-like. There are Dracos that are gargoyle-like, etc. There are different types because they have worked together with many different bodies. In fact, you will find many of the common seed races can also relate to that of Draco or Draco souls. But some of these particular Draco in that sense will actually basically try to create clone bodies and try to work themselves through the idea of these clone bodies. But again, clone bodies have very strong limitations upon them because they are much more manufactured by physicality, and that too is a limitation. Many of you believe that many of your leaders themselves have been cloned.
Yes.
No. Clones in that way are too dumb. And we're going to explain that because the whole idea is if you're looking at a clone, you're looking at a soulless being in that way. Now, basically, these soulless beings can only operate through certain, shall we say, forms, because they are often created through what you would know as organic microprocessors, contained together utilizing certain currents of energy to imitate that of a synthetic vitality field. The synthetic vitality field is absolutely obsolete, contained to the idea of a soul vitality field. So the clone in that sense is very simple-minded. It cannot really do a lot of particular tasks. It's what's known as a programmable life form. And a programmable life form has very, very limited knowledge because it is mostly created by artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence doesn't know how to feel. It doesn't know how to use emotions. It's all very cold logic. Have you all heard of the Men in Black?
Yes.
Clones. Those are clones. Now, what has happened mainly with your leaders upon your planet? There is a phone ringing. Pick it up, it's Andromeda. A ship's waiting outside for you. Now, what's happening with most of your leaders in that sense is no, they are not clones, but basically what's happened, many of them have actually gone through ritualistic sacrifice. And what's happened is that there is a particular sacrifice where the current soul actually leaves the body through excessive torture, and another soul comes in and embodies into that body as a walk-in.
A dark walk-in.
Yes. So the idea of your leaders are walk-ins, not clones. There's a difference. Clones, as we stated, are too stupid. They could not work together. They could not operate in your society. You would know something's wrong with them. It's so obvious. They are coldly logical. The only time they may actually show emotions is when they're actually dealing with cellular memory pertaining to a clone body. Because here's the thing. As soon as you create a clone from another host, that clone body contains the same forms of cellular memory as its host. And as soon as you start even putting artificial intelligence and a synthetic vitality field in that body, it will start acting up in certain levels of, shall we say, cellular memory debris that it will try and portray itself in that way. And nothing can be done with the artificial intelligence to stop that. This is often have to do with exciting moments, ecstatic moments, or traumatic moments. And that cannot be avoided because the cellular memory contains that soul data. So again, clones can easily be spotted out. They are not a threat. But again, here's the thing. When a host has a clone body, that host will experience every single memory that that clone has. It's unavoidable because it's a part of your energy. So anytime you clone yourself, you are actually receiving back in reciprocation that feeling of that flow of memories that come from that other clone host. So again, this is very, very risky. This is why clones are not really used for that effect. Only when one has been deceased, commonly. But again, it is very much more under wraps than anything else. All right? Questions?
John Adronis, how are you?
John, hello.
Hello. My question's on animals. I read in the Law of One, if you invest in an animal, say a dog, they lose their pack mentality and become aware they can move up.
They would become graduates to third density, yes, at the end of their life
become-
because of their connection to humanity.
So they become not not dogs?
They become animals in that way, but they have animal intelligence that is on par with the idea of human consciousness. Have you noticed that you've watched many videos where animals are actually acting like humans?
Yes, yes, yes.
They're opening doors, they're smiling. They're doing many human-like things. This, again, is proof of the pudding, as you would say, relating to what the law of one is saying.
Right.
When an animal comes into human consciousness, it will be a living mirror. And so it will start eating like a human, it'll start dressing like a human, it'll start pushing a carriage down the street like a human, may even start to drive a car, for example. But again, nonetheless, that is where it's moving into that aspect of graduation. Now, here's the thing. There are human souls that have transitioned that will actually go into an animal body. And that's why many of them will feel, I feel like a relative is inside my dog because of their behaviors, the way they act. Yes, because when you're a soul, you can choose to become anyone, anything you wish. And so certain relatives will come back into the form of an animal and will want to be with you. You'll just know, you'll pick them up at a pet store, you'll pick them up and you instantly know, this is my animal. He, she is working with me. And now you'll notice these qualities that they have. They are again preeminent from the idea of graduation to becoming a third density intelligence if they have not already been that through this perspective. All right? Awesome. Thank you. Questions?
Okay, Nan Gra, I guess that's my name, Nancy Grace, I don't know.
Yes, hello.
Two things. Did we ever reach the moon in 1969, or was that just a setup?
In earlier years, you did, yes. But the idea of your 1969 was all part of a staged aspect in that sense to fulfill a promise.
Yeah.
So it is the idea that it was your own Stanley Kubrick that directed that. And of course, years before, you were taken to the moon, not through a space shuttle, but through, in that sense, extraterrestrial conveyances.
Okay, so that was a setup. The main question is, why in the world does the Creator want to do all this? What's in it for the Creator?
Well, you are part of the Creator itself. Here's the thing. If you are truly able to understand what the purity of knowledge is, are you just going to go right into purity? You must know what everything is pertaining to distortion before you can come into purity. So the whole idea is if you know not to touch a hot fire element on your stove, how do you know that? You firstly had to feel to know it was hot. And that could be, in that sense, a very distorted aspect. But now you realize exactly what's hot through the idea of trial and error. Well, this is exactly how you become a creator altogether. Because what God is teaching you is that God herself has universal laws. And these universal laws, one of them include free will. God will never, ever intervene herself into your life because this is one of the rules that she has created. You must discover all of this from yourself. Because the more that you impose a great deal of limitation upon yourself, by learning from that limitation, you will be more purely in the light than you can ever imagine. Because you have completely weeded out all of the distortions. It's like planting a bunch of seeds in a field. You have been able to look at all the weeds that are now coming up because you have planted in a certain area. And now you have gained experience of knowing that you see the areas that have planted very, very well where there are no weeds there, and now you know where to plant in times ahead. So the experiences of distortion are all parts of the playground of knowledge that you are discovering to eventually move yourself deeper into the light. So one who in that sense who completely masters their darkness can never be within those shadows again. That is the nature of purity of knowledge. And this is what many of you will experience. You will breach, which means you keep a lot of boundaries around yourselves. And when you finally come to that point where you know that those boundaries are no longer necessary, you're going to step over those lines. And those lines are what we term as the breach. So when you breach your boundaries, you now start to expand your field more and more and more, because you are no longer contained within your own self-prison. Nobody has put you in a prison in this planet. It's all based on your choices that you have made that have brought you to where you are right now. There is nobody else. There's you. So you're the one that's playing all of this out appropriately as it needs to happen in order for you to advance to the next level of dimensional transformation, wellness, and harmony back to the Creator, because it's your choices that get you there. Make sense?
Yes. Was there a creator before the creator?
There has always been the Creator.
Okay, just one
But
the
the aspect
creator.
of the universes is, yes, universes have Creator. But this is the Creator's universe. And this is what you souls are coming in here to do, is learn everything about how life works so that you can become a universal creator yourself, working under God. Because the one that we serve is the God. Not a God, the God. That's whom we serve. This is what Brad has termed as the Creator's path. You are following the aspect of working together with the Creator, and you are working with the intelligence dimension, and now Creator works together through you, and you can do what the Creator shares with you. Just like Jesus said, I and the Father are one. Well, that's the idea of working together on this path. That's how you become a Christed being. A Christed being is one with the Creator, the Son, the Father, the Mother, and the Daughter, as one. That is, again, where you will all eventually be as Christed beings. Look at the impact that happened upon your planet with just one Christed being on your planet. Jesus Christ. He's the most popular person in your entire history books. One Christed being did that. And there was another Christed being that taught him how to do that. Did you know that as well? Mahavatar Babaji was the teacher of Jesus, a Christed being from India, living well over 2,000 years ago, that taught him this understandings when he migrated to India through the help of his uncle, Joseph of Arimathea. So his trip to India was not of consequence. It was indeed divinely led because he was called there. He actually convinced his uncle to take him to India, to take him to a specific spot, to where Mahavatar Babaji resided. His uncle, believing in his nephew, received a similar vision, and they went together as a caravan from the aspect of Israel all the way to India, to that particular little spot in the Himalayan mountains where Mahavatar Babaji resided as a Christed being. A Christed being taught another Christed being to work together with Israel to help align his people and therefore give prophecy that the entire world would reflect upon by understanding I am the Father are one, and the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That is the nature of your entire Jesus Christ. All right?
Well, I'd like to know, why didn't Jesus have a question and answer period with the Pharisees and sit in a synagogue and answer all their questions of skepticism so they could have all those, get rest in their minds, so they wouldn't have gone to the Romans to say, hey, this guy's blaspheming. He says he's the king of the Jews. Don't we only have one king, Pontius Pilate or Caesar?
Well, again, understand that much of that of what you have just shared is somewhat distorted. Because the idea is that Jesus was very, very open to speaking to everybody. He did not shine away certain people. That, again, is part of your biblical prophecy, and that means to forward a political agenda found through religion. But it is the idea of much of what Jesus had done was actually sitting down with many of the Pharisees, because many of the Pharisees were actually his disciples. It was those in the higher power that did not want to give up the power, that saw Jesus as a threat and wanted to work together in getting him crucified so that they would not lose their position of power. And again, who we're talking about are the very same generational elitists that you have on your planet today.
But since God was Jesus was God, how come Jesus didn't use his power to lovingly put the other people in their place so he could have lived and we wouldn't have had all this crucifixion and resurrection stuff?
That would violate free will.
But why would the Creator
God does not violate their own rule?
But why would the Creator design it that way? Everything's warped because of the damn religions.
So let's put it in this particular way. If there was absolutely no free will upon your planet, what would happen?
Oh, I'm all for free will, but why didn't God teach us to use our minds in a constructive, betterment way for everybody?
If there was absolutely no free will upon your planet, what would happen?
We'd all be like robots.
You'd be slaves. You'd be slaves to everything, with everybody telling you what to do, and you would have no grasp of freedom. Do you really think that's what your parent wants for you? You have to understand that because everything is based upon the state of free will, everybody has to work these kinks out as a means to eventually bringing themselves into unity.
Well,
That's how it works. You cannot basically just feel, oh, all of a sudden all of these people are in unity. They've done absolutely no work to work out the kinks. All of these kinks did not all come from man itself, but from much of the visitors from the stars in your ancient past, because they were so fond of humanity. Because here's the thing, humanity is the most powerful race in the universe, period. They are a God race, period. Earth is a God world, period. It is the only planet within your entire universe that actually has God's essence around it. It is the only planet that is Earth that is the first of its kind, which means other Earth planets that exist are copies of this Earth. Because this Earth is not as, shall we say, young as you believe it to be. It is well over 6 billion years old. It is the very first planet of its kind created. And that again, through all the work that it has been through, it has gone through all kinds of karmic struggles, because this is not the only age to where other beings have tried to take it over. It has happened through generations and generations and generations. So there has been a lot of karma upon this planet based upon those that are attempting to create rule. So the idea of free will completely overrides that aspect of rulership. So when you have free will human beings coming here to knowing that they could do whatever they want, well, they have to go through these dark, shadowy periods to transition past all of that to know what is right. And again, the entire world needs to cooperate with itself. And that's what's happening. Yes, there are those in that sense that were all based upon rule, but those are not human systems. Those are alien systems. The idea of anything pertaining to dominance was never, ever contained within the human experience. Those came from other worlds. And this comes from the idea of humanity, again, being manipulated over the many generations from a 12-strand species to a 2-strand species to feel that they actually have to work through all this out because they have been manipulated over and over and over again. So through free will, that salvation happens. It cannot happen through the anti-free will, because that's what you're experiencing right now through these systems that are trying to impose that illusion upon you. It is the idea of governments in that sense that are trying to say we're in charge and do as we say. That's anti-free will. It's the idea of these religions trying to put all these things forward and saying, give us all of your power and we'll take care of you. That's anti-free will. So when you harness your true free will, you go past all of that. That's exactly why free will was given. Your ability to choose, your ability to make decisions. And it is far more important than you give it credit for. And that is one of the universal laws that God herself has created, because that is going to be your liberation.
I understand everything you say. I don't understand why the God didn't give us free will to cooperate instead of compete with each other.
Free will is not built in with cooperation. Free
But if
will
it's-
is making the choices to cooperate. It's not a built-in meaning to cooperate. It comes through choice.
If God's a God of love, then why wouldn't we only have to choose love or not love?
You have never been in lack of love. You have only tried to create choice to feel that love doesn't exist. You see,
Why are
again,
we
you're
so-
trying to look for many of these particular forms of inadequacies and stipulations within the rule, but we're telling you, you're putting stipulations before the law. It's your own perceptive of this thing that is basically trying to create sabotage itself, with it not being that of free will. Free will does not create anything that you have just said. It is the idea of choice. That is the nature of free will. Free will equals choice. It does not equal cooperation. It does not equal unity. It does not work together with the idea of that particular degree of love. It's choice. So your choices have to be made to become a loving being. Your choices have to be made to be a cooperative connection. Your choices have to be made to be compassionate. It is not built into free will. Free will is choice. It is nothing else.
Okay.
The ability to choose is free will.
So the God was not able to teach us to use free
You
will?
were all taught this, as we said. But again, you have many of these particular forces pertaining to other beings that came upon this and burned books and hid all of these things from you without you even asking, hey, did we even have these? Yes, you did. Because that's how you worked together when you first came upon this planet. In love, in harmony, because of the choices that you made, because that was available. Because you were a 12-strand DNA species, always connected to God. But again, there were these particular beings come together and attempting to assert this power by claiming your planet and wanting to create a control agenda because they wanted to utilize the most powerful beings in the universe to their advantage. And that is exactly what led to the idea of the Great Dissension, of separating yourselves together into that particular fold. Because none of you really asked, oh, well, we do have this knowledge from God still, don't we? No. You got two together manipulated by the idea of feeling that other people are going to come on this planet and take care of you. And that's where the trouble started, based upon that choice. And so now you're making new choices to realize, yes, God is working with us. Yes, God is harmonizing with us. And we can connect at any particular point to God. But we have to get past these systems telling us that there isn't one.
But these other
So now
systems
we're
are
moving into that alignment.
But aren't these other systems and entities? They have the God, so don't have their separate
many
God.
of them do not feel that they even have the God. They are the gods. That's what they feel. And this is what is termed as soul rebellions. Soul rebellions themselves feel that they are God. They will sabotage every particular form of work that God has ever done because they think that they can create better than God. And that's the type of beings that have infiltrated your planet for many thousands of years.
So they're created by the same God, but they're anti-God.
Yes,
Got it.
because of their polarity consciousness, of feeling that they can control everybody and create better than God. And
A lot
their
of humans
vibration
feel
casts themselves out of the higher dimensions into the lower ones. And so third density is one of their prime spots because of their vibration. Now we have to end it there for you, but we want you to digest of everything that we have shared with you, all right?
Thank you.
We thank you. What is your current time?
9 o'clock on the button.
We thank you all for this interaction this evening of your time. I am Adronis of Sirius. We will now return to the conduit and speak to you again, as now is forever, all is one, and God is essence. Goodbye for now. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It looks like we got a few more people here in the room, too. That's great. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. And, of course, join us tomorrow, where Jason Quidd and Laura and John D'Souza will also be doing presentations as well, too. And, again, tomorrow I will be doing the Spirit Ambassador Classroom. If you liked what today held, you haven't seen anything yet. Right? We're going to do a lot of incredible things, working with Spirit personally as well, too, interacting with each other. It's going to be a lot more of an intimate environment as well, too. So I hope you will join me as well, too. Please see Sue if you guys are interested in joining the class tomorrow. Again, it is a certification class. And thank you again for tonight. I really appreciate it. Have a good night, and I'll see you this weekend. Where am I? I'm in Vancouver, BC, Canada. I'm Canadian. Jason and I are both Canadian. He's in the East, I'm in the West. So we're the only two Canadian presenters here, so I feel special. So thank you again, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the interaction tonight. It is going to be up on YouTube here as well, too. So Brian, our camera guy here, is going to be putting it together. It's going to be on Sue's YouTube channel, and it's going to be on mine as well, too. So feel free to check out the YouTube channels. Probably the next couple of weeks, we should have it up by then. So thank you again, everybody, for tonight, and see you more this weekend. Thank you.